Welcome to the channel. This video will be an extension of the previous one, so if you haven't seen it yet, I recommend to do it now. That video contains the build optimal for the continuous necromancer. I used skeletons here to create a kind of front line for our character. But what if we don't need a front line? Because we run in a party, and in addition, we want to have more damage against solo targets. Is there any solution for that? Actually, there is. This solution will be Skeletal Mage. Why? Because why not? Remember that we don't have to limit ourselves to summons. Only when we play summoner, and our goal should be to use all the mechanics that make us more effective. I wanted to include this solution in the previous video. It's not fully tested, but luckily I didn't, because I managed to drop a gem that I really wanted to test, and the information that in the new update the chip will work for summons can change a lot. Well, talking is cheap, so let's move on to the build I wanted to present, or rather to the concept. In the first place, Dark Curse with additional essence, which makes the effect last in the ground area. I think it's a very well-known skill, and it doesn't need to be explained too much. Then bone armor with this essence. In this case, we are not able to use thorns, obviously, so we are forced to this solution. However, I believe that thorns outperform this essence, but it should be mentioned that this skill produces additional corpses, what we will need for our next skill. It's a lance, and it would be a real waste if I didn't try to use the corpse produced by the previous skill, because only then this skill deals reasonable damage. However, you should remember that you have to sacrifice to essences from the shield and from the head. The head is necessary because it causes the extra damage to be dealt much more often, which is the premise of this build. And even though the skill looks cool, sometimes I have the impression that something is buggy and I can't use it properly. I think they're still working on this skill because it already works differently than when I tested it right after it was added. But very often it activates the grace bonus, which is very important to me and deserves at least testing. I use Bone Spear as my primary attack. With this essence, it deals much more damage and additionally increases the effect of Flagellant's Grace. I remind you that in this configuration we are trying to increase the damage against a single target, and even though we have area of effect skills, they won't be as effective as in the previous build. Okay. But why instead of skeletons for this setup I want to use Skeletal Mages? The answer is simple, and probably many of you have already guessed. Apart from the damage they deal additionally, of course it also helps us, but the most important aspect is the use of this essence. So stacking mages now allows us to increase the damage of all previous abilities by an additional 10% if we don't use anything that increases the duration. And I have to admit that it works quite well, and we also have additional range fire support. But I was wondering if we can give up the lance and use bone spikes with the essence of the head from the previous build. This solution gives us the possibility to use any type of mage we want, and I was most interested in Empowered One because it uses a stun and a shield. So maybe we could get some extra benefits from gems like Chip of Stone or Bottled Hope. So I decided to check these gems after the update. Unfortunately, Summoned Stun still doesn't work for Chip of Stone. But how about Bottled Hope? Unfortunately, it looks like there will be disappointment again. This game is so strangely constructed that we can say that summons do not belong to us. And Summoned Shield also does not work for Bottled Hope. However, maybe it will be changed in future. Who knows? So for myself, I considered using a standard mage with no essence other than shoulders. Not sure if this will be the final version, but seems to be the most effective so far. So when it comes to essences and green set, still the best option for parts of Flagellant's Grace. However, since I don't use any beneficial effects here anymore, I gave up to parts of Vithis. In this place I put to pieces of Shalbaz, which increases the damage of my primary attack and additionally increases the damage of my Skeletal Mage. The essences are as I showed earlier. The gems are exactly the same as in the previous video: Fervent Fang, Torment, Jade, Berserker, and Seeping Bile. The interesting thing is that Seeping Bile now works for summons as well. So I encourage you to try this build variant as well as experiment with other types of skeleton mages. You can share your opinion below. Check also other interesting videos on my channel. I will be glad if you leave a like and subscription to stay updated. Soon there will be my bigger project on the channel, which I have been planning for some time. So stay tuned, and as always, thanks for watching.